India's population is now about 1.36 billion people, which means that almost 1 of every 5 people on Earth is Indian. And the United Nations Population Division calculates that by 2024, India's population will overtake China's, making India the most populous nation on Earth. India is also a very young country in terms of demographics, and this makes it sharply contrast with other Asian nations such as China and even more so Japan, which have rapidly aging populations. In India, more than half of the population is under 25, and this gives India, which already has the world's fastest growing major economy, even more economic potential. India also has the world's 4th most powerful military, including the 2nd largest standing army and an advanced array of nuclear weapons. For these reasons, India is often called an emerging superpower and the future of the internet and the next great hope for the global economy. So India is powerful and important and becoming more so all the time. So the question is, with a country this populous and powerful and that's growing so quickly, could it have been forgotten about in the Bible? The late Mr. Herbert W. Armstrong wrote in his book, The United States and Britain in Prophecy, that 1/3 of all the Bible is devoted to prophecy, and that about 90% of that third is related to end-time prophecies, which pertain to the time that we live in now. So if that's true, and if India today is so important, wouldn't it be mentioned in biblical prophecies about the modern day? Well, the Bible does mention India and its role in end-time events. The trumpet often discusses the Asian army of 200 million soldiers that is prophesied of in Revelation 9, verse 16. Trumpet editor-in-chief Gerald Flurry discusses this force in his booklet, The Prophesied Prince of Russia, and shows that it'll play a major role in the Third and Final World War. And he shows that this Asian force is also discussed in the Old Testament, in Ezekiel 38. He proves that this massive Asian bloc will be led by Russia, which is signified by the names Gog, Meshech, Tubal, and Rosh in verse 2 of Ezekiel 38. And he also shows that China will be a lead player in this bloc, which is included in the name Magog. And Mr. Flurry also points to verses 5 and 6 to show that other Asian nations will also be a part of this bloc. Verse 6 mentions Gomer, which refers to Japan as being a part of it. And then verse 5 in the King James Bible says Ethiopia and Libya will be a part of it as well. But other Bible translations, such as Young's literal translation and the Darby Study Bible, correctly render these two names as Cush and Phut. And Mr. Flurry explains that while some parts of the ancient tribes of Cush and Phut migrated to African regions, the rest of them settled in what we now know as India, and they became the modern Indian peoples. And the context of this passage shows that it refers not to the African branches of these peoples, but to modern-day Indians. Mr. Flurry explains that this is very significant because of India's vast population and its nuclear arsenal. And he writes, quote, "When you put India and Japan together with Russia and China, it's easy to see how an army of 200 million soldiers could be formed." India today is rapidly growing, and it's also rapidly growing closer to Russia. And Bible prophecy makes clear that these trends will eventually position India inside this biblically prophesied, Russian-led, very powerful Asian bloc that will play a major role in World War III. To understand more about India and its role in Bible prophecy, and the hope that is at the heart of these prophecies, order your free copy of The Prophesied Prince of Russia.